Hello again everybody, this is Amorgin and you're very welcome back to another Star Trek Fleet Command. And we're in the final arc of the Borg content, guys. We're in phase 3 of that final arc. Bit of a failure at the moment, from what I'm hearing from some people. We'll touch upon the Megacube stuff now in a wee second. We're also going to talk, like the title says, about server merges. We're hearing a lot of talk out there at the moment about server merges and things like this. Bearing in mind, guys, that these guys that I play with on the Founder server are the only players that are currently in the game that have been through a server merge. A lot of knowledge and experience there on as to how the only server merged in Star Trek Fleet Command history, how that actually occurred, and what were the experiences of those players in it. So there's a handful of those players left at the moment, and their experiences should not be ignored when it comes to this. We don't know if the server mergers are going to happen in the same way, but we'll touch upon server merges, I suppose, a little bit more in terms of these Founder server shenanigans and what these guys that have been playing this game for, some of them for the guts of 3 years or more, on and off, depending on when the game was available, the different testing phases. And right now we're faced with this Megacube stuff, the Homeboys versus the Megacube. A bit of a fail, guys. There's not too many players out there that's completing this Megacube stuff, unless they're uber strong or they're just flat out spamming it. We got together, Phil led a couple of armadas, and we got together with some of the Vidars, different setups. Phil was asking for some people to set their Vidars up for attack, some for defense, and different officer setups on different Vidars, so that we can all, I suppose, share in certain bonuses. I was using different crews. I'm flicking through some of them there. You can see on your screen the different crews that the lads were using, just testing to see what we could get in advance on these epic cubes, to see what sort of results we could get in advance of the Mega Cube. So I suppose these epic cubes were dry runs for heading over to the Mega Cube. People were a little bit excited. People were starting to look forward to it on a personal level, and I've heard this from others as well, but on a personal level, I'm extremely disappointed that my entire alliance can't participate in this. I was hoping that rather than a reskin of the standard armadas, we were going to see something special, an epic finale for what has been really good content to date. And the finale, the final phase of the final arc, for me personally, a massive disappointment, because I can't take part in the Alliance milestone, the war effort event. Myself and Harry Saladin from ROG. We'll touch upon that in a couple of moments as well, but I'm going to do a specific video on some of that. Some of you may have seen my previous video where I touched on it, but we'll come to some of that now in a wee minute. The Hum guys were out testing out these epics. And the feeling, I suppose, was that was out there is, number one, we're always going to be taking on ROG. We're always going to be looking out to take on ROG and Borg, not the NPC Borg, but the Alliance Borg on the server, which they're often mixing it with ourselves and Hum in the top 3 there. More often than not, Borg are in there challenging us and sometimes running for top spot. But ROG have been doing well lately, recruiting and at full numbers. Sword have been reformed. Econ and Farty and the lads and Billy and all of them lads, they've gone back home to Sword. It was always there. Billy never shut up about fucking how many players he's going to take with him if he ever decided that to go back to the old Sword. Now there's an issue with Sword, I think, because of the way that the original Alliance was left. So they had to reform a new and fresh Alliance. So good luck to the lads with that. We'll see how they get on. I think Econ is renovating his house or something at the minute, so he's gone a bit quiet. So Sword aren't really featuring. Not that they maybe will anyway, not with Borg and Hum and ROG at the top. But so sort of reformed, and we'll see how they get on when Econ finishes his renovating. We're looking forward to a very interesting video from Econ on the whole LCARS 2.0 stuff. So we'll be looking at that very, very closely, more closely than this very attractive Mega Cube. We'll be looking at Econ's video and keeping an eye out for that to see what propaganda Econ has put together for us. And I'll be sure to do my my commentary or reply on it. We'll jump to just this topic, what's on the screen here, this megacube at the minute. A couple of different types of nodes. Seems a huge big thing. Looks awfully attractive on the screen, but I don't know, like it's not doable. We went in here all full of beans thinking we're gonna kick a bit of ass, and you'll see now I didn't really participate in it because we wanted the first run to be a certain setup to see how it goes. I'll flash up a couple of the images here as well, just of how it went from Phil's battle logs. But suffice to say, it was a bit of a fail. People were deflated about it. I don't know how the ROG boys or the Borg boys are feeling. They're doing all right in the event. They've moved into first and second place respectively, I think. And they're doing it in two different ways from what I understand. And if any of the ROG boys or Borg boys are watching, then feel free to leave a comment there, your thinking on it, your logic on it. But suffice to say, we were a bit deflated and we've dropped off the pace a little bit, and generally disappointed. Some of us would have wanted to go out as an entire alliance and take this thing down. It would have been more fitting for an epic end to a mega cube, you know. But it is what it is, guys. I went off after that and went to do one of these rares thinking, all great, and Spark flew into the system and not very well coordinated. Like, since I've come back to home, it hasn't been very well coordinated at all. Spark moved into the system, half asleep, didn't even join the bloody Armada. Missy lands down with a Saladin, Sai's down with his Vidar, but he's got a shite crew on it, and the lads at this stage just didn't really give a fuck, I suppose, about it. They didn't really care too much, and I let her run on anyway. I didn't complain too much. You can see there we'd done about 25% damage, and fails all around that evening when we were just after trying the mega cube. People weren't too keen on it. Then after that, people are asking the question as to what are we looking at here in terms of future content? What are we looking at in terms of these server merges on the founder server? A lot of us are sitting here thinking to ourselves that this isn't the sort of level of interactive gameplay that we were hoping it would be. Those of us that are left on the founder server, there's not too many of us, we would have loved to have seen some sort of content there where it gave us all a bit of a lift and thought, you know what, despite how strong our alliances are, despite how active certain players might be or certain alliances might be, the top alliances at least could get stuck into something and have some truly cooperative gameplay. Instead, we've got this reskin of old content, which seems a bit lazy and it's a bit disappointing. So in that deflation that's there, we've been looking at what does the future hold for our server? Now, do you see the server merges talk and all? People are, this is all popular at the moment. It's the topic of conversation there when I went into some of the forums and I was looking at them, and I said at the start of the video about how we were the only server that went through these server merges. These guys have been through it all together. They've played on average for twice as long as the most veteran player out there. Guys in the community panel and in my Discord and that I've become friendly with from other servers will be tired of hearing me say this at this stage. But server merges was a strange experience for us. Econ, like I mentioned there, the Admiral of Sword, Econ has his own take on it, and check out Econ's content, guys, because he's done his own interesting take on how we were shafting server merges. It's one of his bugbears, because he felt it particularly sorely because he'd spent quite a bit on the game at the time. There was legal action talked about the last time that the servers merged, and I'm not talking about that New Jersey court case that was more recently in the news. I'm talking about way back before that. And a lot of these guys on the founder server, there's bitterness that has built up over the years. I know, like guys like Mungo and Caffeine that don't like me at the moment. But I suppose I don't bear any real grudges against these guys. Like, you know, every so often, like Iron Monkey get on me tits a bunch of times. Like, but he's the enemies in ROG. Like, in fairness to Iron, he didn't touch me when I went and joined Can. I had a bit of fun with the Can guys. Monkey and all them boys used to be in Can. Can were regarded as ROG Black Ops. we got Triple H over from Can to Hum, and then I was booted out because I was causing a bit of trouble. It's what I do on occasion. Sometimes you have to rock the boat to get attention. A number of different things have happened since that, and maybe there's a bit of video in specifically that Sword Hum breakup. It was like a marriage that broke up, I suppose, and it's the kids that suffer really in the end. And I was mixed up in a little bit of that, so I'll wait and see what Econ does on all of that there before I give my take on it. But right now we're dealing with the fact that Amorgin had left Hum for a while. He'd been kicked out. He went and he joined the Can Boys, played solo for a while, went and joined the Can Boys for a while, and I had a bit of fun with the Can Boys. Small alliance. Different people would join it at different times, I suppose, just to take a break, maybe from the main alliance, or to get I suppose just to be able to participate and make room for somebody else and participate with a couple of the other guys and play with them for a while, because Rampant, and we shout out to Rampant and Harry, and Rampant was loyal to his wee alliance, you know, and different people would join in there with him, and you could have alliance of varying different numbers from 3 or 4 players up to 13, 14 players who could compete at any given time in an event. And it seems as though what happened here was that myself and Harry got left behind, and Harry went home to ROG, I went home to the Hum Boys. We can't participate in the war effort AMS. Now, that's another video. I'll do that. We have a wee bit of a campaign on at the minute, and thank you to all the founder server guys that are sending in messages and all at the moment and showing their support to myself and Harry. If you're from the founder server and you're watching this and this is news to you, well then come out from under your rock, talk to Iron Monkey, talk to Suzaku, talk to Phil, talk to Octo, talk to Taz, talk to any of the guys, Morrigin, any of the guys that are out there, talk to Harry. They'll share with you, I suppose, a sample of what they've been sending in the customer support, both in-game in the ticket and on the Scopely website. So, and if there's other players out there who are interested in helping us with this wee bit of lobbying, then feel free, because there's a bigger question for us now around server merges and what that actually means for our server. We've had quite a mature discussion for a long time. And when I say mature, it hasn't always been mature in its nature. It's mature because we've been having this conversation for the last year. We've been through a lot of the different connotations that could come with a server merge currently, as it's on the tips of a lot of people's tongues at the moment, due to some other content creators raising a wee bit of hype about it. Now, the developers did say, game designers did say in Q&A way back that this was going to happen, so it shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. Server merges will happen. The only question was time frame. Now, some are suggesting time frame of a month. I'll wait and see. I'll hold judgment on that. I'll wait and see if that is actually the case. But certainly for us in the founder server, some of the guys are talking about that this is what they're waiting to see before they decide if they continue playing the game. And it would be really, really sad if it's another disappointment like the Megacube stuff, and that we get shafted once again. I don't know how many players on the founder server would actually have the appetite for persisting and adapting if it's done badly. There's a load of questions around server merges. Some people would fear coming to the founder server, some people would relish it. There are nuanced difficulties with merging the founder server with another server, so we'd wonder how that would go. But suffice to say, it's a big concern for everybody on our server, and there's a couple of other servers out there that are very low populations that could very well be dumped in with us. We don't have too many players under level 30 anymore. I'm not sure how that would go down. We have experience of a lot of the content going back over an age, and how the game has developed in its different facets. Remember that these are the guys that have brought you a lot of the community resources, and we'll do, like I say, a specific video on that whole issue around the implications of a server merge for the founder server in particular. We'll do that around this idea of the war effort event and the finale of the Borg content being a bit of a fail and players being excluded from it. And I'll update everybody how that little bit of lobbying has went. I haven't received a reply from Panic yet to my email, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Remembering that there's Q&A coming up, guys, and there's other forums to get your message across there too, Scopely, including Reddit, which I've used very recently. And there's a lot of players here on the founder server that would be more than happy to share their experiences with everybody around how the last merger went and what they anticipate from a future merger. A last plea before I finish up to all of the guys on the founder server. Usually I do these founder server videos and I take the piss a little bit more. A last plea to all of the guys on the founder server that you talk to Monkey, talk to Phil, talk to the other guys, talk to myself. Regardless of our differences or whatever else, I believe now is the time for us to push for a fair deal for the service that we have put in. I believe that we have a unique situation that needs to be catered to in a bespoke way. I'm quite happy to be the conduit, my Discord to be the conduit through which information flows for that. I'd be quite happy to invite Panic and anybody else into that conversation, but I do think it's time to have this conversation, because whether rightly or wrongly the month that has been given for when server merger is going to happen, if that's the case, we better get our skates on, lads. Maybe it's all going to go to nothing, maybe it's all going to go to pot, maybe none of you guys believe that there's bonds that we have forged through war and the flames of war. Like I believe we have. I believe that there's a lot of players here that it's time to put their differences behind them and start looking at our collective, what's out there to our collective benefit. I believe all servers should be doing the same thing. I believe they should be overcoming their difficulties, even temporarily, to come together and look at and go, right, if our servers merge, what are the implications for our server? I'm making a plea to the founder server, I've done it before, to come together and talk about this. I don't mind if I'm the conduit for it or not. I'd love to see people pushing for a fair deal for our server before it actually happens. Like I say, come in and talk to us and I'll give you my ideas on how that should happen. I believe that the founder server, if we are to be merged and we lose our identity, I believe that there should be something put into the game to mark some of these players who have tested this product from before even Scopely were handling the development of it. I believe some of these players have given a service to the game that should be marked and credited, and some of these alliances like Hum and like ROG are the oldest alliances in the game, the oldest wars that exist, the oldest conflicts, all of the fuckery and the shenanigans and all the shafting that you see on your alliances, guys, with different whales and not whales and free-to-plays and all the shite they get up to on Discord, and all the black ops and the dirty tricks and everything else. The guys in the founder server have been there and done it all before, and our population has dropped to a point of where we can't sneeze without the other side knowing what we're doing, you know. So there's certainly questions to be asked from our side of it, in the server side of it, and potential solutions that we could offer that perhaps then Scopely could apply some of those solutions to other servers in the event that there's going to be merge. There's a question mark over whether the locked servers are going to be priority or whether they're going to be allowed to be merging at all. But let's not hold our breath about the month, but be vigilant that it could happen in that time. Let's not panic if it is the case that merges are coming. Comms will always be open on my Discord for people to discuss this. It's a big conversation to be had, and there'll be more on this with a community panel and other content creators in the time to come, guys. So look out for that. I'm gonna link Econ and Triple H's interviews from the founder server below, because we do talk about server merges, and you'll get a taste of how mature that conversation has become on our server from listening to that. And I want to thank a couple of the guys that gave me feedback on that, Jansen and a few of the others there earlier on when I was dealing with other issues, and the guys gave me some positive feedback when this just happened to arise in Jansen's Discord. So until the next time, guys, take care of yourselves and take care of each other, and let's get this conversation started. Cheers.